Imagine your favorite games, your eagerly awaited consoles, suddenly more expensive, or worse, impossible to find. This isn't science fiction. This is the direct impact of an invisible war being waged far from the screens. Trump's trade war. Hey gamers, and welcome to Your Channel Name. Today, we're diving into a hot topic that directly impacts your passion: how the economic policies of one man, Donald Trump, and his tariffs are quietly reshaping the global video game landscape. Get ready, because the impact is far deeper than you might imagine. To understand how a political decision can affect your PS5, let's rewind a bit. The Trump administration launched a trade war, primarily against China. The idea? To force China to change what Washington considered unfair trade practices like intellectual property theft or massive state subsidies. The goal was also to reduce the massive US trade deficit and, of course, bring manufacturing back to American soil. The main weapon in this war? Tariffs. In simple terms, these are taxes that US importers have to pay on goods purchased from abroad, especially those from China. And guess what? Your consoles and most of their components are made in China. First impact, and the most direct for you, your wallet. Remember, 96% of video game consoles imported into the United States came from China in 2019, referring as a source to Consumer Technology Association, CTA, 2019. When a 25% or higher tax is added to their import cost, manufacturers like Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo face a tough dilemma. Option 1. Absorb the costs. This means they pay the tax themselves. The problem? Console margins are already razor thin, sometimes even negative at launch. Absorbing tens or hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes cuts directly into their profits, reduces their R&D budget, and ultimately weakens them. This strategy is hard to sustain long-term without significantly hurting the company. Option 2. Pass the cost on to you, the consumer. This is where your console price skyrockets. Studies, like one by Deutsche Bank in 2019, estimated that a 25% tariff could increase the price of a Nintendo Switch by 15 to 25%, referring as a source to Bloomberg, 2019. Other analyses talked about increases up to 70% in worst-case scenarios if all tariffs were passed on. Imagine a PS5 costing over $600 or $700. Who would buy it? Fewer console purchases mean fewer game sales later, and that impacts the entire video game ecosystem. But the impact goes far beyond a simple import tax. It affects the global supply chain, that complex and highly optimized network that gets your console to you. Normally, it goes like this: research and development, design. Ideas and designs are created in the brand's home country: Japan for PlayStation, USA for Xbox. Component sourcing: tens of thousands of individual components. Processors, memory chips, screens, circuit boards, plastics come from highly specialized suppliers all over the world. Taiwan for chips, South Korea for displays, Japan for certain semiconductors. Manufacturing and assembly. Most of these components are then sent to massive assembly factories, historically and predominantly located in China. Why China? Because of its unparalleled logistical infrastructure, skilled workforce, and competitive costs. Packaging and logistics. Finished products are packaged and prepared for mass shipment. Global distribution. Finally, these consoles are transported by sea, air, or land to warehouses and retail points in consumer markets worldwide: North America, Europe, Asia, etc. Trump's tariffs, however, create a huge wrench in this well-oiled machine. Every console assembled in China and imported into the United States, for example, is subject to these additional taxes, increasing its cost for the importer's distributor. Let's take the PS5 as a concrete example. The retail price of the PS5 standard with disk drive is currently around $499 USD. The manufacturing cost for Sony at launch was estimated to be around $450 USD, covering components and assembly. If we consider a manufacturing cost base, just the portion assembled in China, of say $400 USD, and apply current US tariffs on Chinese imports, which can vary but are reported around 51.60% on average for Chinese exports, or levels of 30% to 55% for specific categories, referring it as a source to Time magazine. If a 30% tariff is applied, that adds $120 USD, 30% of $400 in additional cost per console imported. This additional cost could theoretically push the console's price from $499.99 to $619.99 USD for the final consumer, or significantly shrink the manufacturers' and retailers' margins. Faced with this, giants like Nintendo have been forced to start relocating some of their production out of China, for example to Vietnam. But it's not simple. It costs billions in investment, takes years, and it's incredibly difficult to replicate China's dense ecosystem of suppliers and logistical expertise. The result: production delays, risk of shortages, and always the risk of higher manufacturing costs elsewhere. Fortunately, not all games are equally affected by tariffs. Tariffs only apply to physical goods crossing borders. This means that your digital video games, those you download via platforms like Steam, the PlayStation Store, Xbox Game Store, or Nintendo eShop, as well as cloud gaming services, are not directly impacted by these taxes. Their distribution is through electronic data transmission, not the import of physical products. A major consequence. This situation could accelerate the already strong shift towards digital. For publishers and developers, digital distribution already offers significant advantages. No disc or cartridge manufacturing costs, no packaging costs, no shipping or warehouse storage fees, and no customs duties. If the costs associated with physical production further increase due to tariffs, the profitability gap between digital and physical widens even more. This strongly encourages publishers to prioritize digital releases, potentially reducing the number of physical copies produced, or even foregoing a physical version for certain titles. For consumers, this could mean more expensive physical games, reduced availability in stores, and a stronger incentive to buy digital versions via promotions. And for specialized physical retail stores like GameStop, Micromania, Fnac, this is a major blow. Their business model heavily relies on the sale of physical games, consoles, and accessories. Fewer available physical games or higher prices lead to less foot traffic, reduced sales, and potentially store closures. In the long term, this even raises the question of the relevance of disk drives on our future consoles. Finally, and often the least visible but most painful part, the immense pressure on those who create the games, the developers and publishers. Squeezed margins and affected revenue. If consoles become more expensive and sell less due to tariffs, it means a smaller installed base and thus a reduced potential market for software sales. Even if a game is sold digitally, fewer active consoles in the market equal fewer potential buyers. And if a publisher continues to sell physical copies, their manufacturing or import costs directly erode their profits. This financial pressure severely limits companies' ability to reinvest millions, even billions, into new projects, hire skilled personnel, or explore new technologies. Impact on employment. And yes, if sales prospects shrink or margins collapse, it has direct consequences on employment. A company under financial pressure is often forced to implement cost-cutting measures, which can include hiring freezes, mass layoffs, as we've unfortunately seen recently in the sector, or relocating certain functions to seek out more stable or less expensive environments. This is a direct and painful human impact for the thousands of skilled professionals in the video game industry. In short, Donald Trump's trade war, with its massive tariffs, isn't just about distant numbers and abstract economics. It has a very real and direct impact on the price of your consoles, the availability of your physical games, and even the types of game studios will dare to create in the future. It's immense pressure on a multi-billion-dollar industry. What do you think? Do you believe this pressure will inevitably push us towards a 100% digital world? Do you see any other possible consequences? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to like this video if it helped you understand these issues, and of course, subscribe to Pixel Saga and hit the bell for more in-depth analyses of the fascinating world of video games. See you next time, gamers!